And now, ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please welcome to the ice the members of the 2016 NCAA National Champions from the University of North Dakota.
Welcome back to the Has-Beens, presented by 10K Takes, brought to you always by the Chill Boys. And you can go on www.chillboys.com. And listeners, you can type in HB15 to get 15% off your first order from the Chill Boys. Get your underwear, socks made out of bamboo. I am joined today, obviously, by Jack Mason, our producer, Trevor Olson, and a very special guest, Brad Doshan, former University of Minnesota Gopher. Dosh, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate having you here.
Thanks for having me. And I'm not that special, trust me.
Well, we'll see. To us, you are, you're one of our funner guests here. Just the timeline. You played hockey, and obviously, we're a hockey podcast talking about college hockey and stuff. Being an ex-Gopher, playing for Herb Brooks, very special having you on here. So we do appreciate you making the time for us. And we'll get into everything you do afterwards, after we get to this, our weekend recap and stuff. But again, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you guys. It's an honor, really, especially at this age. I mean, it's all
you look good. You look great. You look great.
That's debatable. my movie star good looks abandoned me about 12 years ago. And my mull order isn't working that well. Okay, so you guys just got to put up with that for an hour.
If I can have his hair.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, my God. I can't imagine.
Oh, it's all fake. It's implants. I mean, it's an easy deal now. I forgot the Botox treatments, but that's all right.
All right, let's get into our weekend recap, brought to you by Beauty Status. And obviously, Beauty Status is a homegrown company here in Minnesota, making that hockey apparel, Minnesota hockey apparel. They got a genuine look, really authentic stuff. Everything from driver cover, polos now, really nice polos. I wear it golfing a lot. All their t-shirts, their flags. Go check them out. Beauty Status Hockey, beautystatishky.com for the website. Let's get into our weekend recap here. Olson, what'd you get up to?
Yeah, I made a nice little weekend trip over to Chicago, hung out with Shelby's sister. It was her birthday, so we made a nice little weekend out of it. That Friday, we just hit the pontoon and went up and down the river. It was actually pretty fun. It's kind of a new look Chicago. I've never done that before.
So how'd you get this? I've been to Chicago before. Great city. A lot of fun to be had, obviously. How do you get on the water there? I've always wanted to get on the water. People are driving around in boats, swimming around, wearing bikinis, swimsuits. How do you line this up?
Yeah, so actually it was pretty cool. Her apartment is right on the river there, and there was an empty spot, and so she asked around, like, how do I get my pontoon on the river? And, they pay a pretty penny for it, but it's kind of funny, most of the boats and shit are like yachts, and they're like roaming around the river, and she's got this beat up pontoon, this $3,000 pontoon, and we're just bumping tunes up and down the river.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah. And
so are you able to like stop at docks and are there like riverfront bars to stop
bars, eatery, restaurants, all that stuff. Yep, you just pull right up.
This is all fucking news to me.
Yeah, it was really fun.
I didn't know this. So, I gotta get on the water in Chicago. Yeah. Gotta get down to Chicago, get on that river.
It was surprising, but it was incredibly fun, super cool. I mean, you're just literally on the water in between these big skyscrapers. Like, it's sweet. So we did that Friday. Went to a night club or whatever at night, and then Saturday we went out on Lake Michigan. We were on big old yacht out there. Again, I don't really know how we got out there, but
I don't ask questions. I just go.
I just show up and put on my party pants, and it was fun. We were out there for a long time, and just drinking. And
I mean, if we rate things here, the weekend
10.
Yeah, so is there going to be a better weekend than that one? It sounds like that's as good as it gets.
It was, it was incredibly fun. It was perfect. It was 2 days. If it was 3, it would have been just fucking a lot. But 2 days was perfect, and then we hopped in the car, 6-hour drive home. So,
how was that drive home? Obviously, there you're like, excited, and then
Yeah.
on the way home, you're like, God.
One of these just sitting in the back like this. Shelby's sleeping in the passenger seat driving for
those,
6 hours.
Those drives home after those weekends, I always contemplate like how much money would I be willing to drop to have like a portal, like time portal machine,
Oh, yeah,
just
a lot.
to just transport me home.
Yeah, a lot.
Without this drive, I mean, it gets up there someday. Like it depends on the drive and how you're feeling, but some days you're like, fuck, I'd fork over a couple 10, 20K.
Yeah.
To just get in my fucking couch and sit down.
Can I interject something? I don't want to steal your
No, come on in.
else, but I actually had a couple of honey bears take me under their wings way back in 1981. The honey bears, after the Chicago Bears won the Super Bowl, they were the cheerleaders, and I walked into a club called Faces. I just got back from Italy after playing pro hockey my first year. I was pretty jacked up, and I pretended that I couldn't speak English. I said, "Hey, ciao bella, come sta? Come andiamo?" They're like, "Wow, this guy's got to be Italian." Oh no, just little English, you know. Hey.
Did you have to play it out the rest of the night?
Oh, it was phenomenal. And they're like, "Well, you know, he's not super good looking, but you know, he's not bad." And I go,
Plays hockey too.
they went about 15 minutes and they go, "Hey, I was just joking." I said, "Where are we going tonight? Where's the disco?" And they took me under their wings and they brought me all around Chicago for the entire weekend. It was a pretty good gig all in all.
Don't ever apologize for interjecting.
Mary
with
Jo
those
and
kind of
Kim,
stuff.
Mary
That
Jo
is
and
awesome.
Kim. Oh, they're smoking hot. Oh my
Chicago
God.
Honey Bears.
You know, honey bears.
You know, he mentions that, and I always wonder about the Russians. You know, like I'll see Kaprizov, you know, in the wild, roaming around the bars, and I know his English is not great. Like, is he just walking around just smiling at girls like, ah?
Yeah,
And
pretty
then
much.
it's like, does he even have to like wheel him? He just goes the whole night without talking, and then just back. Yes. Oh, probably.
When you're making $9 million a year, you're probably not having the same sort of attitude that we had.
Yeah.
You know, at like $25 a week. But anyway,
Yeah,
it was a little different generation and era then.
for sure. Mace, what did you get up to this weekend?
So just kind of got settled in at the new place and hit some breweries and bars around. Got mimosas on Saturday morning, get the hangover away, and then Sunday I went to the Def Leppard Motley Crue Poison concert.
Nice.
And that was fucking awesome.
That's
But-
sick.
Motley Crue, I mean, how, you know, I see Motley Crue. I didn't even really know they were here because I was going to Lumineers on Friday. We'll get to that. But I hear Motley Crue's here, and I'm like, holy shit, Motley Crue. I mean, where the fuck are they playing? The U.S. Bank Stadium. In order to get the venue of the U.S. Bank, you have to sell that many tickets. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I didn't know Motley Crue's still selling that many tickets to their shows. Like,
Dude,
was it nuts?
It was packed in there. There's maybe
Really?
like 100 open seats. Like,
Yeah.
it was crazy.
That's nasty.
Was that... Sorry to interrupt you, Mace, but
you're
have you guys seen that Netflix movie, Dirt?
Yep.
Is that
Oh,
on
yeah.
Motley Crue?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I've heard stories from my old man and people about Motley Crue, how like certain bands, you know, they'd play on the road, and sometimes big bands would play together, and you know, all these other bands were crazy themselves. But whenever they get paired up with Motley Crue and they'd go out with them the night after, everyone's like, Jesus Christ, these guys are fucking nuts. Like, holy, I thought I was nuts. Look at these guys. And then Motley Crue hangs out with Ozzy Osbourne, and they're like, no, look at that guy. He's fucking eating. He's snorting ants.
Amazing, they're still all alive
Yeah.
Oh,
at this
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And I saw Mick Jagger and Stones again. I went to like 6 concerts. I saw him down in Jacksonville a couple of years ago after Jagger had the stent put in. You know, they had
Yeah.
to delay the concert.
Yeah.
The freaking guy, I couldn't even keep up with him. He was running up and down the stage, dancing, singing. I mean, these guys, they're freaks of nature.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're taking, but I want some.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I just saw the Rolling Stones at US Bank last fall. And it was sold out. And Mick Jagger, I kid you not, you know, like, how old is he now? He's 76 or
78, 79.
He's close to 80.
Yeah.
And this guy was jumping around, buzzing around, sprinting on the stage the entire concert. And at one point towards the end, like, I was just standing there like, I can't keep up. I'm so tired. And I'm like, this guy's fucking 80 almost. And I'm tired before he is. Like, what is going on? Like, there's gotta be something.
I want what he's having.
And I got one problem with the Stones right now because at the bars, once I used to think I was quite a player, according to me, but that was not the case at all. In any event, the women now tell me that they used to tell me once in a while I looked like Richard Gere from the nose up.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, all right, that's pretty good. And now they're telling me I look like Keith Richards, only I have more wrinkles.
I'd still take the Keith Richards comparison because Keith is just as fucking cool as Mick too. I mean, those two guys. Yeah, Keith is still shredding up there. I mean, they both had, like you said, heart surgeries and all this stuff, and they're still up there just absolutely shredding. I can't believe
it's amazing. This is really remarkable.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool. I didn't know you were going to Motley Crue, and
yeah, it was pretty good. I saw Vince Neil like 2 years back at Mystic Lake, and he was good then, but I don't know what changed in 2 years, but he was awful on Sunday.
Really?
It was really bad. Like, he was offbeat, and then he would try to like catch up to the song after, and
Vince Neil?
yeah, he's the Motley Crue singer.
Oh, so it was at the U.S. Bank. It wasn't great.
Well, Def Leppard and Poison were pretty good, but Motley Crue, they had like 3 good songs.
Is that still Bret Michaels on Poison's lead singing there?
Yeah, pretty sure.
He used to have that old MTV dating show. What was it called? He was like trying to pick out of like 30 girls that were trying to date him. It was like a Bachelor, but it was MTV and it was Bret Michaels.
I've never seen that.
You've never seen that? Oh, it was so funny. There were like 2 twins that came in and they were a pair, so you had to pick the pair or like one. It's like you can have that. You can't have just one. We come in a package, so it must be 2. It was just ridiculous. I mean, he's a rock star, so what else do you expect? Dosh,
Exactly.
what'd you get up to this last weekend?
That's a long time ago. When you got the Alzheimer's and dementia kicking in, let's talk about yesterday. No, actually, I made a pretty big, profound decision. I'm actually living on Lake Minnetonka. I moved back for at least a year for the first time in about 35 years.
Really?
So, yeah, after Crystal Golden Valley, Hastings High School, Gophers, Oklahoma City, farm team, off to Italy, Switzerland, London, and then Florida for 8 years.
Where are you at in Florida?
In St. Petersburg, just outside of Tampa. It was awesome.
It's
really fun to watch the Lightning. What a great organization that is.
You were there in a prime time.
Yeah,
They've got a great rink there. Olson, I know it well.
Yeah.
The Amalie Arena. We've actually been to St. Pete's, had a dinner there on the beach.
Yep.
Showed up in suits. Everyone else wearing flip-flops and shorts.
I actually had the job.
Fuck you guys when you're in business.
I actually had the job back in 1986. I was like, I started playing pro hockey at 12, so I mean, it kind of dates me. But anyway, I had the privilege to take Phil Esposito and his family down to Venice because I was coached with Lou Barrow, the ex-Olympic coach at the time up in the mountains in northern Italy. So he asked me to take Phil down there, and Phil kept trying to pay me, and I said, Phil, I said, I don't want any money. I just want a story. I want a story with you and the Turk. And unfortunately, I can't tell that one. Because
That's all right.
I'm still looking for a job. You might be able to help me out. No, but you guys could have let your imagination run wild.
For sure. It does suck, when you're on these things, you get guys on and certain stories and stuff that you understand and are very funny and you wish people could hear them, but it's also like, it's best if people don't hear them.
Anyway, I alluded
they
to
don't
it.
understand as well as we do. And
So anyway, I found a place on Lake Minnetonka. It's just it's hilarious. It's like going back to the 70s. It's on the water. It's a ridiculously low price. I won't want to mention that because I do run a sports travel business. But I fast forward. I was out in the lake and had a great time with my friends. But yesterday was a highlight. You guys, really one of the highlights in my life. I have to say in the top, maybe not, top 10 for sure.
Really?
I got to see all the Gopher guys. Got to see Brad Buto, who I haven't seen in 30, 40 years. One of my favorite coaches. All the boys were there. It was the alumni golf tournament down in Prior Lake, the Legends golf course, and It was absolutely cosmic. It was one laugh after another. Butch told me that I was the best penalty killer in the country. And I said, Butch, you're not going to get a free trip if you lie.
Trying to schmooze you. Yeah, you're good at this.
Anyway, but just some amazing stories. And also, he says, Dosh had great form. I agree, Butts, he was a really good penalty killer, but he says he had great form, but he just had this knack of missing, the puck by about that much. And that was all programmed, because that's what we used to lay down. So you looked really great. You'd slide across, and puck would just miss. Anyway, so it was really fun. It was got to talk to Motts.
Was that the Gopher reunion alumni tournament?
It was just an alumni tournament. Yeah. And so I got to talk to Motts too, and I don't usually do this. I'm not, as hockey players and coaches, we don't usually kiss ass for anybody. But this guy, I think he's really turned it around. He's turning it around, and the vibe was just amazing. I haven't been to many of these functions because I've been away in Europe, for all these years. But I will say, we got something going there, and I think he's got something going, and I'm really looking forward. He's trying to make, implement some endeavors to get the younger guys get to know the older guys like us.
Yeah.
And it's a super, super good, sensation and ambiance. So anyway,
for sure.
It was a great day. Great.
No, and that's the way I know when Olson and I were playing, we were playing against Coach Motzko in St. Cloud.
Right.
And when I heard the news that he took the Minnesota job, I was kind of pissed because I knew he was a good coach and nothing against you, big rivals, but I was like, fuck, no, Minnesota's going to be good.
Oh, absolutely.
God damn it. Yeah. I knew, he was going to go in and do a good job, and you just knew he was going to do that. So from my standpoint, I wasn't too pumped. I was like, I was hoping they'd, hire some fucking idiot. And I just couldn't.
Which hasn't happened all that often.
No, it doesn't. But I'm not surprised to hear that at all. Just hearing some of the stories from Motzko and seeing some of the St. Cloud teams he put on the ice against us and in the past and the future after that, he's just done a really good job at St. Cloud, which is kind of a tough school to recruit to and get guys to come to. I mean, not that tough, but in terms of the Gophers, are you going to play for the Gophers, Duluth, UND? St. Cloud's kind of behind those in terms, and even Mankato. Right. But he found a way to get those guys there and have good teams, so that's not surprising at all. But, yeah, I guess I'll get into my weekend now before we get into Dosha's stories here. But I'll start it off.
I thought I was done.
Thanks for coming on.
You got any more wine?
So I'm actually going to start it off from Wednesday, which wasn't the weekend, but I did want to tell a story. So my youngest brother comes to town. He just had double hip surgery. He's a hockey player, plays in the USHL.
Okay.
It was his first time. He came to the cities to skate a couple times. His first time on the ice to work with a guy who, kind of gets the hips back in motion and stuff. Well, anyways, he comes and he's like, yeah, let's play around. My other brother's here. So I get Rhett Gardner, my other brother, and my youngest brother, Ty and Trey. We go play around. It's Rush Creek in Maple Grove. Really nice course. Well, anyways, before the round, weeks leading up to this, my youngest brother's texting me and Ty, my other brother, oh, yeah, I just shot -4 at Valley or -3 at Kings Walk, and we're like, no, you fucking didn't. Like, we golfed with you so many times. You're not shooting under par. Like, shut up. And he was the same guy, who used to come home when he was a younger kid. He'd come home from his peanut jamboree or squirt or whatever, and he'd be like, Trey, how'd the game go? And he's like, oh, it went good. I had 4 goals and 3 assists. And my dad's like, Trey, what are you fucking saying? You won 3-1. He's like, oh,
that's great.
He's like, you didn't have 3 goals. He's like, well, I fucking should have. It's like, okay, you don't know what to believe of the guy. Well, anyways, he comes and golfs, and he was actually pretty good. So it was actually crazy to see, your younger brother growing up hitting the ball out there, and he was decent. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe he's a little different.
Yeah.
But anyways, after that, on Friday, we go to the Lumineers concert where Matt Harder hooked us up with tickets there and a suite. had the time of our lives. Had a golf round set up with Boss Man, a 10K here. Had to back out because I couldn't. I got out of bed at.
You couldn't walk?
Yeah, he couldn't function.
I got out of bed at like 3 p.m. and our tee time was at 5, and I'm like, I'm not going to go spend $120 just to, duff the ball the whole round. Like, I can't even see anything. Like, it was one of the most hung I had ever been. I took so much Advil and, like, couldn't get rid of my headache. But anyways, kind of recovered on Sunday, and here we are, I guess, on Wednesday. But that was my weekend. It was great. I'd go back. Those are the nights where, like, I kind of overshot the pregame. Like, you're going in, you're so excited. You're like, oh, let's have a good concert. And I got so excited before, just had too many drinks and got a little banged up. That'll happen.
It happens.
Absolutely.
It'll fucking happen. But here we are now. And now I think we're going to, typically we do the fun stuff brought to you by Butter Golf. And obviously Butter Golf is Jordan Schmaltz's brand, golf brand, just started up. They've got hats, shirts, stuff you would love. Like, this stuff is just straight hockey.
Do I look like I wear a hat?
No, but
it's got nice
you
shirts.
love their shirts and like
Okay.
it's straight hockey player lingo. Like, it's great stuff. And
Okay.
he's got this stuff
looking
going.
around.
He's actually playing over in Switzerland this year. He was in Finland last
Who's that?
year. Jordan Schmaltz's name is.
Okay. Yeah, I know him.
So he's a good player, but he started this brand, and usually the fun stuff we bring up, like hypotheticals and all that stuff. But since we've got Doshan studio, we're just going straight story time because he's got so much good shit we want to get to. So Dosh, let's kind of slide into your life and career and what you're up to now. Let's try to get into what you're up to now.
Okay.
You obviously, doing the travel hockey thing. How do you get in?
travel.
What are you doing now? Kind of, how do you get people over there, and how did you start this out?
Well, I was coaching professionally over in Europe for the last 25 years, and starting out in Italy as player coach for 6 years. And I coached at the higher levels, and I coached at the younger level, the youth levels. And I actually went to London for a 3-year stint, and it was a great experience. We actually won the championship. It was the Chelmsford Chieftains. It was a second division team, and everybody was calling me Reggie, from Slapshot, which was just pretty hilarious. And, I had a great experience up there. But when I came back, I got tired of the weather up in Britain. And so I came back. I wanted to hang on Lake Como. Fell in love with Lake Como the first time I ever saw it back at age 22. And I said, I'm going to live there for at least 5 or 10 years. And I ended up staying there for 20 years.
Lake Como, where's that?
Lake Como, Italy, just north of Milan. Yeah, it's where Clooney and Angelina, Brad Pitt, and Dosh hang out. Anyway.
Yeah.
Is there a comparable over in America to this spot, or is it kind of just
It's been voted by Forbes for 7 years in a row as the #1 lake venue in the world. I mean, it is absolutely spectacular. So that bodes well also for the tours. And you're right in the border of Switzerland. You got all the hockey teams there in Switzerland. So it's an amazing, amazing spot. I miss it. I look forward to going back, every year, which I have been doing up until the pandemic. So while I was coaching in Switzerland, I actually had a really great friend of mine by the name of Dave Jensen called me up and said, hey, Dosh, this is going back 20 years ago. He says, we want to bring the Pee Wee team over. I said, okay. And he says, he goes, we need you to set up a tournament. The hotels, the bus, everything. We want to hang out. We have some fun, go skiing. And then I said, well, Jens, I said, I'm kind of busy. I'm coaching 3 teams in Lugano. And he says, Dosh, we're going to pay it. And I go, okay. As you do as a professional hockey coach, making $20,000 a year. Anyway, and so the tour was unbelievable. Like, I did everything at the last minute. I called the hotels. I know I have to book them out 9 months in advance.
Yeah.
Called the hotels a week in advance, the bus, everything else. And they had an absolutely amazing time. They won the tournament because I paid the referees enough. and the funny thing about this is that, there's like 12 Pee Wee players. And out of those 12 players, 8 of them went D1 and Jake Gardner in the NHL. So,
Really?
yeah, so it was a pretty electric group,
Yeah.
Tommy Fallon, the Jensens, Coda. Anyway,
we had the Codas over there too.
the Coda. They're all on this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Raiola. I don't know if you remember
Oh yeah, I know
Raiola.
Raiola.
So this is Minnetonka.
Yeah, it was an all-star team.
Yeah,
so
okay.
supposedly. Anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, and so we got done with it. I actually had a party. Strangely enough, I know this will shock most of the people out there, but I actually had a party with 120 people and a DJ. And so they all came to my party, and it was in a villa that I was renting right down the street from Johnny Versace. And I was a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I don't know how I pulled this off, but it was a good run. And anyway, so they came to the party, and all of a sudden, the dad started taking. We had the kids being babysit at the hotel with the guides, and the dads started taking out their shirts. I'm going, wait a minute, no, that's my game. And you guys are still my thunder. Long story short, they said, hey, Dosh, they said, you got to do this. This is all about you. This is you got to turn this into a profession. I started thinking about it, so I brought over more Pee Wee teams from Minnesota, mostly Minnesota. Got Shattuck St. Mary's coming over for 3 years in a row, and then I got to, actually up the game to Colgate, Cornell, Quinnipiac, Dartmouth, some of the big boys, St. Lawrence, and then I had some pretty big success with the MIC teams.
So you start off with kind of youth teams from Minnesota, bringing them over to Europe,
right?
Playing these. I mean, how many games are they playing?
Up to 4.
4 games against just local teams, and
right.
So how are these teams? You get the youth teams over there. How are they doing against the local teams?
Oh, I make sure that there's no 10-0 games.
Yeah.
As a coach, I don't want to waste people's time. I want the kids to have fun. It's no fun winning 10-0 or losing 10-0.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that I coach in both Italy and Switzerland at the youth level and the pro level, I actually, have a pretty good feel for it, and I know everybody in the organizations. Like, for example, when a Quinnipiac came over, they would play against the LNA teams in Switzerland. So and
that's
also
like
LNB,
a pro team.
The pro team, A, and there's an A and the B. So anyway, and it was I've been better lucky than smart, right? I never had more than a 4 or 5 goal game, since I've been doing that. And then with the MIC teams, obviously you got to adjust it down a notch. So they'll play like a 3rd division Swiss team, and then 1st division pro team in Italy. Anyway, so that helps a lot. I think just being a professional coach myself, I'm able to ingratiate myself pretty quickly, with the coaches. They're always a little bit suspect of me because of my bad hairdo, and now they're used to it. Unfortunately for them, and so it's just it's been a great endeavor, to be able to parlay, playing hockey, being an average player, get to the Gophers, win a national championship, losing one, making it to the pros, and then, coaching professionally and be able to have, 4 months off every year. So when we were playing, most of the towns that you played in were like a Vail and Aspen. So, you could ski, on your day off. And it was just a really, really unique environment back then. And it still is today. And so consequently, I feel like right now we're coming back in a big way. Got a couple big teams coming over next year. Oswego State we were talking about. Yeah. And there's more teams coming. And, it's just, I'll be honest with you guys, it's been a rough ride.
Yeah.
PPP loans, all that. I mean, everybody's just in survival mode.
Yeah.
Sure. I just tell people you take 20 years to build up a company and 1 week to bring it down.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's all good now.
For the listeners who don't know right now, so Brad or Dosh, he kind of convinces teams from North America to come over and play teams in Europe that are of similar, skill and just to show them, how cool Europe is, and also try to grow the game in Europe a little bit because it's obviously a little bigger over here up north.
Absolutely.
And just show them, the different parts of that. It's got to be really hard because obviously that's an expensive trip for any team to come over from North America.
Absolutely. And
play over in Europe. And then obviously the European teams know that, when you're telling them like, hey, I got Cornell coming over to play, like, do you guys want to play this team? And they're like, we don't want to lose the game. I mean, how good are they? How do you make those negotiations?
Well, at first it was difficult, but now we got a track record. We're the only company that's had D1 teams over. So, in several D3 teams, I mean, Adrian, not just the Concordias and St. Olave's of the world, Hamlin and St. Thomas, they came in 2019. That was our last trip with the women's and men's team with Paulco and Duke. And it was, what I think we do, which is a bit different, is number one, I'm over there I've lived over there for 20 years. I know if a kid gets hurt, that's one of my biggest fears. If a kid gets a major injury, I know the doctors that we need to go to. I know which hospitals. I know basically at any junction, if there's a slip up, or a ball dropped, we can correct it pretty quickly. And the one thing, that I learned a long time ago from a book I read, it was what they don't teach you at the Harvard Business School, but you're afraid to ask. And the theme of that book that I took away from it was, if you ever start a company, and this applies to you guys too, hire the best frickin' people on earth, the best people that you can get. And that's what I did and what I've done. And my guides are off the charts. I mean, I'm not trying to be egotistical, but I could never do what they do. And my team leaders, so I just get over there and I kind of orchestrate the whole thing, oversee the entire tour. And which is fun is that, you're alternating. You get in there, you're in Lake Como, one of the most beautiful spots in the world. Have a gourmet dinner. Next day we go on a private boat up to Bellagio. Kids are swimming in the, and having a blast. Go play some hockey that night. Next day it's Milan, and it just spins out like that. And it's very, very
sounds unbelievable.
Pretty amazing. I love it. I can't wait to go back.
I'm pissed at North Dakota. Why didn't we go over there? Are you kidding me?
And it is. And, in my, if I don't have 90% of the people saying to me, hey, that was the greatest trip I've ever had in my entire life, then I feel like I failed.
Yeah.
Because these people are spending a lot of money, and investing a lot of time and energy. And I want the guys, from the players, to the girlfriend, to whatever, to the parents and the alumni, the coaches. I want to make sure everybody's happy. And I try to condone the interaction between the players. So we'll have a team dinner after the game. Everybody's having a beer and drinking. Now, the Swiss will speak, usually speak, most of the guys will speak English, because they're being coached in English. So that's kind of a cool thing too. And then they're learning so much. I mean, when you go on a Vatican tour, you're just absorbing all this information. And the guides know too as well, like now whether it's Venice or the Vatican, Colosseum, they know when to ease off the pedal and when to give people, we give them a couple of days off and let them get away from the group, because you don't want to have them come together every single day.
For sure.
You need some time off and the guys need some time off. So I feel like, this took 20 years to kind of develop. So I feel like I'm at the top of my game right now, and hopefully, it'll keep going as well as it is.
How long are these trips? Or, are they?
Usually 8 to 9 nights.
Okay. Nice.
Days,
cool.
Yeah. So the three venues are Lake Como, flying to Milan, go to Lake Como, it's 20 minutes away, stay there for 3-4 days. Then we go down like the Ligurian coast, Portofino. You probably heard of that before. That's a day trip. That's a spectacular trip. It's my favorite trip of the tour. And then we'll go up to a little town called Bassano del Grappa, and people will be like, what the hell is Bassano del Grappa? I remember Rand Pecknell going, what's Bassano del Grappa? Just trust me, it's a cool mountain village, probably the neatest mountain village I've ever been in.
Yeah.
And I got to travel not just Europe, not just Italy and Switzerland, but most all of Europe.
Yeah.
So anyway, then we go from there, we go to Venice, play another hockey game up in Cortina or whatever, and then we come down and we hang out in Rome for 3 days. So it's a pretty good gig.
So you're speaking, obviously very experienced. So when you're talking about this thing you have going, getting teams over there, you know what you're talking about, the problems. So I want to ask about the first couple years you start this. There has to be some logistical problems. Like you said, like now I got I'm worried about kids getting injured. I got a doctor to call. I got buses. I got all this stuff. Is there any like logistical issues that you ran into at the start that are, kind of like, holy shit, this is where I learned, to have a doctor on scene, or to have taxis ready, or to have a second hotel? Like, are there any logistical issues that you had learned from the past in your starting years that you've kind of fine-tuned out towards the end?
Sure. The number one was traffic flows, because you're talking about coming into Europe in August, where most of the countries have like 2 to 3, if not 4 weeks off. A lot of people do. So you've got a lot of people traveling. You've got them coming from the north, from Norway, Sweden, coming down to get on the Italian coast, and vice versa. So that was always been a pretty big issue, and you got to make sure you're dialed in and you're on top of that, because if you're not, you don't want a busload of people sitting there for friggin' 6 hours. In a traffic jam. And so far, knock on wood, we managed to avoid that. And again, it's depending on, I think what I've learned, especially the last 7-8 years, is you really got to turn it over to the people that are running. I mean, Josie and Pietro and Tatiana, and my guys, they're from there. They're Italian. They know that. They know it. Okay, I lived there for 30-some years.
So are they hockey fans too, or just
no?
They're
They're more just guides. Some of the team leaders, as a hockey guy, as a coach, youth coach. But for the most part, they're the ones that have MBAs or whatever in history, literature, and the arts. And I mean, when they start speaking, but they also got character. A lot of times you get a guy that's really boring, that's prolifically intelligent, but doesn't really know when to stop, and just kind of rattles it off and away going. So I'm very, very dependent upon.
So how many
those guys.
guides have you went through then that you realized this guy's not?
Probably I've had probably 10, 15 guides over the years, but now we have a solid 5 for most of the trips. And what I try to do is to get one team to come one week, because it's such a narrow window. You're talking about August, or you're talking about December for the D3 teams if they want to come. D1 teams aren't coming in December, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're going to come in summertime. I think, my dream is obviously to get the University of Minnesota, my alma mater, but I think nowadays, there's so much competition. Look at Minnesota. Look at all these T1 teams in Minnesota that are so freaking competitive, and then across the board. I mean, across the country. So I think that one thing that D1 teams they could have a pretty big advantage. I think just because the camaraderie that takes place,
For sure.
and the way the guys come together, and you see this kind of symbiosis, whatever, during the course of the trip, and then they're also getting a chance to play 4 professional teams if they want. I mean, it's a really good start to the season, because you're talking about August now, before they had the big break. So I'm hoping that that will kind of play into it. But I mean, for the most part, everybody's going for the experience, and it's tougher now after the pandemic, because most of the D1 teams will pay for the entire team and staff, because you'll have some wealthy alumni that writes a check for $120,000, whatever, and whereas the D3, it's mostly the parents that are paying, or the kids themselves. So those are the 2 different ways that they finance it. So
and you mentioned camaraderie, and Olson and I, and we talk a lot on the podcast just with our guests, and how much it means to be a locker room guy and have a close team. Some teams you play on, really, really high talent, really skilled, but there's no camaraderie there. Guys don't care about their line mate. They don't care about the other guy, the defenseman, the goalie. So they're not as good. And then camaraderie is a huge part. And I feel like this trip, that's what it does. For college teams, is like it starts you off. You all have this experience going overseas to Italy and all these cool places, and you're with each other every day and hanging out. I mean, the camaraderie that you get out of that is, you can't get that in the weight room, on the ice, at Ritter or Mariucci. You can't get that.
And the thing is too is these are trips. These guys will talk about this for decades to come. You know what I mean? And it also, one thing too is it also makes them accountable. If you're taking off in August, let's say August 7th or 10th or whatever, the guys got to make sure they're in shape, especially with the competition level as high as it is right now. So not that these guys, I find it, Mats let me actually meet some of the guys last year, and it was just an entirely different, ambiance from our era. We weren't nearly as focused, in the sense that, or maybe committed. We were focused, but we weren't as committed. And these kids, I mean, I'm like, wow, so impressive. All super classy guys. Told them a few stories like I'm telling you now, and they got a kick out of it. I said, I was so freaking good when I played for the North Stars Farm Club. They sent me to the Spaghetti Hockey League. But I was a better lover than a fighter, according to me. Don't ask my 2 ex-wives that. No. Anyway, but in any event, I think that it holds them accountable, and it's just it's a bonding experience. And obviously, I'm not trying to sell it, but it's just it's been a great business, and it's given me a lot of satisfaction, because I was able to coach over at least 2,500, almost 3,000 kids in the 24 years that I coached over there. And then I bring all these people over. There's probably another 2,500 people, and you actually are impacting these people's lives in a really positive way. And that's for me, that's the satisfaction that I get.
It's pretty cool.
And you mentioned the guys now playing for the Gophers are a little more focused.
Right.
Not necessarily, more dedicated, but a little more focused. And I think what that comes from, and what we've mentioned before, is at some point, like when you were playing back in the day, when you go home for the summer, there's no, you're paying $20K in the summer for a trainer. And you're skating every day.
Right.
There's none of that stuff. Like guys, you're done with the season, you show up to training camp and you're like, holy shit, this is when I get in shape.
Exactly. And you got to follow the diet and nutrition, which is it's beautiful. I mean, it's first class all the way.
And nowadays, somewhere somewhere along that line, some prick decided he wanted to work out all summer. And, he fucking showed up to camp in shape. And he's like, he's just killing everyone else in the team. And the coaches were like, why the fuck aren't you guys doing this? He looks great. And now you got every fucking guy, spending $20K a summer, eating right, skating every day, working out, stick handling. It's like, you have to do that to keep up now. Like, there's so much competition out there. You have to do that to keep up.
And what is something I was really impressed with is that I got to have, I got a picture of me signing the wall. So the Gopher locker room is now a circular. And so his goal is to get every alumni, that ever played to sign that wall, which, which is, so
cool.
it's kind of like the concept is that, us alumni, we're protecting the guys inside. They have that kind of concept.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's very unique. I think he's, both him and Ben, all those guys, I mean, they're just such classy individuals. And I think that we're really going in the right direction. I mean, obviously, it's not that easy to win a national championship. It's not that easy to get to a national championship or to the Final Four.
They had the team this year to do it, and it's like we said before, even Olson and I were played on a great team at UND, and
right.
Even then, we had a really good team. We still had to have some lucky bounces, like the Denver goal.
Yeah.
We had some tip-ins against Michigan that weren't going in against anyone else. Like, you got to get lucky.
Absolutely.
So it's tough.
And that's what we talked about earlier about having a best of three.
Yeah.
Because, to be quite honest, when we won the national championship in 1979, objectively speaking, North Dakota played better than us. And we had great goalie. We got some breaks, but that can happen in any game.
Yeah.
Whereas when we lost in '81, when I was a senior and we played against Wisconsin, we beat them 7 times during the course of the year. Go up to Duluth. There's 3,000 Wisconsin fans, like Badger fans, like what's this all about?
Yeah.
They'd taken the ace out, put it back in. There's all these variables. I'm not making excuses.
Yeah.
But we didn't play nearly as well. There's a lot of variables, like the Broughton's had signed before the game, both, which if we would have won, they could have taken our national championship away and that kind of thing. And so there was a lot of variables going on, but that all can happen in a one-off game. You know what I mean? I think we're all in accordance on that.
Yeah.
They should change that.
It can, for sure. And to go back on what we were saying about the first guy who decided to work out all summer, well, fuck that guy for one. But two, it'd be pretty interesting, like nowadays with the NHL, you have, and NFL and all these sports, you have, CTE head issues. Because all these guys, like if you look at the NFL, Aaron Donald and, Danielle Hunter, these guys are freaks.
Yeah.
And even some guys in the NHL, some guys who are playing in the NHL, they're just freaks. Well, it's dangerous for the players. Well, what if you banned working out in the off season? So if you catch a guy working out in the off season, he gets a 10-game suspension. It's like all these guys end the NHL season or the NFL season and they can't do shit until the season starts the next season. So like that's a little safer for the guys. It's a little more natural.
I think more injuries will come from that.
It might.
Yeah.
But it'd be funny to see.
Yes, it'd be hilarious.
I mean,
to see.
obviously we like, faster players, more skill, stick handling. NFL, bigger guys, stronger guys, Derrick Henry running over guys like no one can tackle him. Well, what if Derrick Henry can't work out in the offseason? What's he going to look like?
Yeah, that's
Come
true.
August.
That's interesting.
It'd be kind of fun to see. I don't think it'd be as fun to watch.
Was that what it was like when you were playing college? Like when the summers came, it was throw the gear down,
Let's
maybe
go.
skate once or twice.
Jump in the Trans Am and go go to the lake.
Was that what it was like?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we did have a developmental league. That was a pretty funny story there, because it was the U.S. Developmental League, and it was in St. Paul. And so I was out in Minnetonka, so I had to drive like 45 minutes in. And one of the craziest things happened when I was in high school. Buto was recruiting me. And Herbie only saw me play a couple times, and I had horrible games in both games. I was so pissed I didn't know, and I found out after the game, whatever. And so I figured that ride was like a one beer ride, from Minnetonka to St. Paul. This is the kind of, and I don't condone this, but I'm just saying this was the kind of era that we lived in, Sure. And so I'd get into the locker room and we were self-coaching. So I took the reins right away. Myself and Stevie Allset, we walked on at the U together, and there's another story there. But anyway, he went on to become All-American. And he's got like a 45-foot pitcher at Mariucci. I'm in the men's room, the fourth stall.
I feel
back, about an inch high. I told Alls I wanted to rent his shin pad. See if I could get that upgraded, going forward. But anyway, luck of the draw, we were playing. Actually, Herbie had a Gopher team assembled. So it was just so unfair. I mean, they were so much better than everybody else. They were talking about Meredith and Christoph and Strobes and all these guys. And so we're a bunch of social misfits. I mean, we had like literally a couple plumbers on the team. The guys that never played college hockey. And we had a nucleus of a fairly decent team. So I come in the locker room, and I'm always a fun guy. I mean, everybody knows I got a 12-pack in my hockey bag, because in case we win. And so, I walk in and I say, okay, you guys, let's go, boys. And everybody's like, what the hell's wrong with Dosh? I said, no, we're going to play the best games of our lives, and we're going to beat the freaking Gophers. We're going to, we're going to show they can be done. And I was like super ultra focused, and I was kind of like going into coaching mode. Anyway, we did play the best game ever. And this only happens once in a lifetime. I swear to God, and it just happened to have at the right time. I had the game of my life, and I got it. Where you're just lucky, everything falls in place. Scored a hat trick, kind of beat up on McClanahan and some of these guys, and I come back into the locker room. So we tied. So it was a great result. And also sitting across the locker room, and he says, Dosh, because I was grabbing the beer and I was starting to walk around and give everybody a beer because, we tied. And I hear this, where's Doshan? Where's Dosh? It's Brad Buto. So he's assistant coach, with the Herbie. And he says, and Alson's like, get the beer down. So I let the beer down. Anyway, Butts walks in. He goes, I say, hey, Butts, can we step outside? So we walked down. He goes, I go, what's up? He says, geez, Dosh, he says, you had an unbelievable game. He says, who was in the stands? I said, no, who was that? He goes, Herbie. And I go, well, that's a pretty good deal. Anyway, I swear to God, that is one of the reasons why I had a chance to walk on at the University of Minnesota.
Really?
I swear to God, because he finally saw me play a game, and I'd been working out hard. It wasn't just a total party, because I knew I was going to have to walk on. And, the one thing that I admire so much about Steve, he's really one of my best friends also. And the thing is that he turned down a full ride with the Badgers to walk on at the U. And at that time, people don't realize in this generation that, we had like 40 walk-ons. Okay, the first 10 were political invites, but there was 20 freaking good players there for sure. Yeah. And if you didn't make it, you lost an entire year of eligibility. And that was huge. I mean, it was crushing if you didn't make it. So anyway, we both made the team, and I'll never forget that day. We went, we celebrated pretty hard. When Herbie called us in, he says, I don't know if you guys are the 15th and 14th forwards, but you got a chance to play for the U. I was like, wow, super. And super. And it was amazing because Alls, went with the system. I tried to buck the system. And this is one thing I want to tell if there's younger hockey players out there. Don't be Dosh, be Alls. And I'm serious about this because as a professional coach, later in later years, I realized, I was a bit of a rebel without a cause. And I just, it was so important to just, do the right things and be super committed and not be, you can go out and have some fun, pick your spots, but not too much fun,
Yeah.
And so, I just thought I'd throw that in there because I think it's something that could resonate.
There's a way of, doing what the coaches want you to do on the ice and then being yourself in the locker room. And,
Right.
But when you're out there and you're bashing heads with your coach or whatever, even if it's not verbal, just your mannerisms and, your body language, it's like people pick up on that, and little things could just twist a coach's mind in one direction. But if you're straightforward with the coaches and you do what they ask and whatever, they'll let you be whoever you want to be in the locker room and things like that.
Well, and I always tell people I feel like I was Herbie's favorite player of all time.
That sounds like me.
I broke more curfews than probably any Gopher hockey player in the history. So I was pretty proud of that, since I scored like 2 goals in 4 years.
You are me. I think we're the same person.
Anyway, but I got to tell you a quick story about Herbie. Oh God, you loved Herbie, and I know people love to hear about him. When people come on the trip saying like, "Oh, you're a legend. You play for Herb Brooks." I go, "No, he was a legend." I was anyway his favorite player. Anyway, but the thing is that Herbie was a prolific coach, no doubt about it. I mean, look at what he accomplished, but he had a different style, and it was kind of a little bit more aggressive and kind of, in a way, almost kind of threatening, like, you get this done or you're freaking gone, you know what I mean? And so I was actually the whipping boy because I was on, which I understand, as a coach, and that was fine. So you'd see like, all the guys doing the Herbies and the Miracle movie. That was true. And he would go for 45 minutes on a Saturday morning when we'd all been out. And then everybody's like, half the guys are throwing up, and I'm not kidding you. We get out of the bench, and all of a sudden he'd go, "Doshan!" I was like, oh man. And he'd skate me for another 10 minutes because he wanted me to throw in the towel, say, "Screw you." And then I would put up with it. But it was kind of funny. When we were in Colorado and things, we were just happy to be there. I was a freshman, and to walk on and everything else. So we're in Colorado. We're the number 1 team in the nation, the sophomore year. And he goes, "Okay, guys, I don't know if you guys are. I'm sure they have better locker rooms now, but at the time they had a pretty rickety locker room. We had to walk.
You Colorado College or
CC? Yeah, CC.
CC's locker room wasn't great when we played.
Well,
no, it's probably better than what you had.
Well, you could. The thing is that you couldn't see everybody as a coach because you had the coat rack was in the middle of the locker room, right? So this is a good story. So Herbie tells me, says, "Hey, okay, guys, listen. We get off the bus. We're in the hotel." He says, "Okay, guys, we're number 1 team in the nation. I don't want you guys getting cocky about that. I know we're playing CC. They're last team in the WCHA. So he says, you guys, let's get the business done. And I'll let the rope out a little bit, and I'll give you a little bit of time on Sunday or Saturday to go up." And so he walks out of the locker room. Actually, I was in the locker room. He walks out of the locker room, and I go, "Screw that." And I said, "Hey guys, guess what? I got some friends lined up." And I said, "I'm buying margaritas." And I said, We'll beat CC by 10 goals, even if we can't walk."
That's the way we felt.
I swear to God. So we go out, and it was 6-1. Oh my God. He came in, and he had a riot act going. I mean, when you see that in the Miracle, that was nothing. He'd take garbage cans, he'd throw them across the room, he'd throw skates, anything he could find. The guy had the most unbelievable temper, and he's just screaming at us. "I told you guys, I freaking told you guys." He's walking around because he can't, he's got to keep walking around the locker room. He's pissed. And he stops, he looks at me, he goes, "And you, Doshan, you were the worst frickin'." When Herbie was really pissed, he'd use the F word. But, most of the time he'd say frickin', but this time he preferred another adjective. And he goes, "Doshan, you were the worst frickin' player on the ice." And I go, "Herb, one question." He goes, "What do you mean, one question?" I said, "Can you count?" Oh, God, he exploded. I said, "I got 2 shifts in the first period, 1 in the second, and 3 in the third. What was I supposed to do? Score a hat trick and win the game for us?" Oh, God, he went nuts on me. Like, God damn it, Doshan, you're going to be on that train back to Hastings. There is no train to Hastings. It's a bus. Oh, God. And the guys were just, they're hauling, but they couldn't. And so anyway, so he's walking around, he catches his breath. He stops for about 10 minutes. And he's going to give us one more discourse about that. And all of a sudden, you can ask Olson about this. It's pretty funny. All of a sudden, you hear this. He goes, what the hell is that? And Olson goes, that's Doshi's blow combing his hair. He's getting ready to go out. And the time he took a break, I had taken a shower, had my suit on, and I got the locks going.
Yeah, the fucking blow dryer going.
I was on the 7th line on Monday. It took me about a month to get back up to the 4th. But anyway.
Before we dig into more of these stories, I wanted to touch with recruiting nowadays compared to back in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
You know, you got kids committing at 14 years old. Was that a thing back then?
Yeah, and I kind of want to add on
not
what
even
Olson's
close.
asking, because you said, you know, Herb saw you in the skates, and then you got the walk-on, and there were 20 guys. Kind of built off what Olson was saying. Was that kind of your, I mean, it sounded like you were out of high school, and that was your year to make it. So to us, it's a lot different. You know, all these teams, all these college teams, they're picked like 2-3 years before the season even happens. And it sounded like you got the invite right before the season.
Exactly. It was most of us went directly into college because it was the best players, and there wasn't that many teams. It was the University of Minnesota, Duluth, and so there was more limited that way. And there was nothing like it is now with all the scouting going on, which is great. But I think that it tends to put a lot of pressure on the players and because it is so competitive, and that's I think that's a good thing in one way, but I also think the parents feel pressured and they put pressure on the players.
Great point.
And that's something that I find really kind of discouraging. It's like, leave the kids alone, let them have fun. It's supposed to be fun at 12, at 7, even at, it's always got to be fun. Even if you're 41 and you're on your retirement contract. I mean, you want to have, that's what everybody says. And, and I just don't know sometimes if the guys are having as much fun as maybe we did in our generation, and again, I'm not saying that that's the best way to go, but I want to, speak truthfully about what it was like in our era.
Yeah.
And I think there's a certain appeal for that.
Because I just wanted to add on, so I played high school hockey through senior year. Then I went and played juniors. Right. And I felt more pressure because all my friends had got commitments when they were seniors in high school, juniors in high school. And so that was kind of like the new norm. So where I would probably have been more comfortable in that era where it was like, okay, now I'm just playing to play instead of putting pressure on myself because everybody else was committed at 16, 17, 18 years old. Yeah.
Did you feel that? I mean, were players committed that earlier?
No,
like you
not
graduated
at all.
high school and you still, you graduated high school, no offer, and you still thought like, oh, there's a chance I still might play for the Gophers. Because nowadays, you like Olson's playing, he's not playing juniors after. It's like like you're not playing college.
Right.
You're done. But I mean, you were still kind of thinking like, well, there's a chance I might get a walk-on spot because I was a pretty good player.
Well, and the thing is what I really, I've talked to a good friend of mine. He became a good friend because he brought his Pee Wee teams over. Is Corey Leyland. He used to play for the Gophers and he runs the Euro, tours or whatever, the Euro training and American, sorry. And we talked about that when that started happening about 8 years ago, and it's just. I think that puts so much pressure on the kids, and a lot of the kids, when they get picked like that, what are you going to do at that age? You're going to let off the pedal. You're not going to work nearly as hard as you were working before. And I think that's very, very problematic. And I don't know really how you address that in this day and age. Because again, I've been pretty much removed from college hockey with the exception of taking the teams over and everything. So it's been a learning curve for me, but I will say it's been special. I mean, I've been allowed into a club. I mean, you asked about how I get the tours. most of it is, there's a hockey convention, coaching convention down in Florida and some other tournaments, that kind of thing. So you're there, you're exhibiting, and, you're talking to the coaches, and many times it's, out at the bar, at the pool, whatever. But, it's really a privilege to be able to sit down with a Rand Pecknold, Bobby Gaudette, he's retired now from Dartmouth.
Yep.
I mean, Ron Fogarty, he came with Adrian. Now he's a coach of Princeton.
Dame as well?
What's it?
Did you have
Notre Dame? No. But, Donnie Vaughn from Colgate and, Schaaf from Cornell and then also the D3 coaches. I mean, these guys are great coaches. I have so much admiration for them. And it makes me think about how committed they are, how smart they are, and how much they have to juggle on both the D3 and the D1. I mean, these guys don't stop working. That was what I was alluding to earlier. It's like we had 4 months off. So the first thing I do is I go ski for, a month.
Yeah.
I go shoot down to the Greece, travel through the islands, yeah. Because I thought, hey, I don't know when this is going to stop. So, south of France and then, Portugal, Spain, etc. And so that was, you think about how much you can extract from the game of hockey or some sport like that. I mean, that's not very usual. And I feel very, very lucky to have had all these experiences. And I kind of took a little bit of advantage of it. I made sure all my friends had a ton of money and that kind of thing. Going to Monte Carlo, meeting the prince.
It does say something about you, though, that, in order for all these teams to come over, they have to have a tremendous amount of, trust in you to make sure this trip's going to go well.
Exactly.
And you're doing this, and you get a coach like Rand Pecknold over at Quinnipiac, and he's like, college hockey fans listen to us, so they know Rand Pecknold. I mean, he's the Quinnipiac coach. He's one of the best college hockey coaches right now, and I mean, ever. Right. And you gained his respect and trust to have his team come over. I mean, that's got to feel pretty good to know, like, this guy trusted you to show him a good time and build a team over there.
And it's funny that you picked Rand, because Rand and I are kind of like, at the time we were like polar opposites. And he was a little bit worried, but they're all, him and, Bobby Gaudette from Dartmouth, they were all going off of Don Bond's advice, because Donnie came over twice with Colgate, and he said, look, once you're in with those coaches, it's a great deal. It's really, it's a very, very lucky position to be in. And I'll never forget, we're down there in Florida, and, Rand was kind of, I could tell he's a little bit skeptical of, going with this Dosh with the bad hairdo, capris.
I can only imagine Hackstall going over
the ankle bracelet.
Hackstall's going over, and he's got Dosh leading the crew. Hackstall's like...
Hopefully people can't see my horrible hairdo. But anyway, so I could tell he's a little nervous about it, and we were having a couple of beers. I walked up behind him, and I put my arm around. I said, hey, Rand, I said, I know you're a little skeptical, you're a little worried. I said, but don't worry, pal. I'm going to deliver for you. And he goes, oh, I know you will. And it was just kind of neat to have that kind of interaction. And then the next thing you know, we're over there. He's got his 4 kids with him, and he's got to do laundry on a Sunday, and there's no laundromats open. So now I got to take the van, the equipment van. We got to drive across town like 15 miles to go to this laundromat, and there's nothing open. It's a Sunday morning. Yeah. So we sat on the curb. There was not even a bench to sit on. And we sat on the curb, and we just talked, we talked about hockey, we talked about life. And, you get those kind of, interactions and that kind of time with these guys. It's really, really special. So, and also not the coaches, but also the players, the parents. That's always my biggest regret. Like, I try to remember everybody's name before they go, get them a little something at the end. And it's, you always feel a little bit heartbroken because you didn't get a chance to meet all these amazing people, better than you could, you could have. So anyway, it's been a good ride.
For sure.
A very good ride.
So yeah, Dosh, I mean, obviously we've loved all the stories you hear, but you've had for us, you've told us, but we really did want to get into the Minnesota days of your playing career, just because we are kind of a college hockey podcast. So you mentioned how you got to Minnesota, your walk-on. I mean, bring us through what that's like. You said there were 20 walk-ons, and they cut, every one of them almost, and only a few of them come on. So
Actually, there's 30 pretty good ones.
yeah. So I mean, well, what's your thought process going into college? Like, I might make this team, I might not, and then you do make the team. I mean, bring us through all of that. Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it emanated a bit because of my childhood. I lost my father at age 10, and that was pretty rough. But I have 3 older brothers and 2 older sisters that kind of helped steer the way along with my mother, and that's why I actually moved to Hastings. My mother got remarried. But when my I think when my father died, I said to myself, okay, I got 2 choices here. I can be a screw up, or I can make him proud. He gave more to me like in 10 years than maybe many fathers can give their kids an entire lifetime. So I started, setting goals for myself, and I was a bit of a loose cannon, as I mentioned. I'm sure you've already assumed that. But I told people, and they say, well, what do you want to do when you're older? And I said, well, I'm either going to be a rock and roll star, a race car driver, or a pro hockey player.
Fuck yeah.
God, you better hope that it's a pro hockey player. Anyway, and people laughed at me, and they said, you can never do that. I said, I'm actually going to play for the Gophers. I was 14 years old. And one of the best things that ever happened to me is I skipped Bantams, and I played with the junior B team when I was 14. I played with 27-year-old guys. So that was a huge deal back then. So when I went to high school, it was I'm not saying it was a cakewalk, but I was just already used to, better competition. And, and I got there, and then I made, a goal of, getting over to Europe and playing as a pro at the very least after my Gopher, college career. And I felt that the one thing is that I worked as hard as anybody, maybe even harder than a lot of guys, but I didn't have a lot of, at that time, we didn't have a lot of great coaching. And nothing against the coaches, nothing against the Butos of the world and Foley's and, Herbies. But it wasn't that one-on-one, like teaching how to shoot and, just all the semantics of the game, and
it was more so motivational, like, get your ass going.
Exactly.
It wasn't like,
we didn't have much
this
instruction.
Yeah.
Not much instruction at the time. So, we had to kind of find that on our own. And the camaraderie that we had, though, at the U was amazing. I mean, I remember so many people telling me when I was a freshman and a sophomore, you'll never truly comprehend what it is to play for the Minnesota Gophers until it's 30 years down the road. And I think that was a great statement because it really did resonate. I mean, when we came back from Detroit, we had 5,000 people waiting at the airport for us. And I was nobody on that team. I mean, I'm not kidding. I had like 3 shifts in the game. And I said, I was always very pivotal in that game. But what I did do is
You're speaking my language.
I did.
Like we were.
But I have to tell you, I do have to tell you this story. I'm telling the story about the 10-year reunion of the national championship team. This is a pretty freaking funny story. But anyway, the point is that, we got back 5,000 fans. I mean, I remember I'd be like up in freaking Crosby where actually, my family grew up, and somebody would come up to me at a bar and go, Brad Doshan, congratulations, the national championship. I'm like, how does he remember? What do you study the bench during the game? Do you watch the game? It's like, pick me, Herbie. So, when we won the national championship, that was, I always say that's the greatest moment of my life, after getting married, of course, like 4 times. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, it was, the exhilaration was something that, and you guys, fortunately you guys experienced it, you two, and it's something that you'll never, ever really let go of. And I think it also spells volumes for, having success later in life, and I didn't make the millions, and I'm the first to admit that, but I've had a pretty amazing lifestyle. And I'm not sure that right now at this point in my life, if I would have preferred to, taken that avenue and made the 10 million and working my butt off every single day, or the avenue of traveling all Western Europe, playing and coaching pro hockey, teaching kids, and parents and the whole, the whole scenario that goes along with that. And I think that it's, as you look back on the arc of your life, because you have to at this age, you have to say, okay, what I did wrong, what I did right. But I'm glad that I did make that choice, as hard as it's been at times, because as, professional, as coaches, we don't make a lot of money and let you this year at the highest level. Playing for the U, and then we won the national championship, and they forgot my invite for the Olympic team. I was pretty pissed off about that. Or they might have lost it.
I'm still waiting on mine too.
Missed it. I missed that. But it was neat because we were all so proud of our buddies, doing that, and we knew that they were so much better than us. Like me and Olson, all the guys that remained, and so consequently, it was just a real feeling of pride that you had, because your buddies won the Olympics, and nobody could have ever dreamed how big that would be later on.
So, Dosh, was that, for the listeners who don't know, was that while you were in college that happened?
Yeah. So it was my junior. It was my junior year. So what was happening actually when the game was played out? We were in Colorado College, going back to Colorado College again. But we were actually in the locker room, and Timmy Har had just went and had a tryout with the team. And, and you saw that. And by the way, Herbie would have never said, he never would have met with the guys on that. There's no way he would have said.
He wouldn't have listened to
you keep your big trap shut.
Yeah.
I'll decide whether Har's making the team or not. Okay. Okay. Either accept that or get the hell out of here. That's the kind of guy he was. And I loved him for that. And that was one thing. I'm deviating a little bit. The ADHD is kicking in. But the one thing about Herbie is that he we called him, I don't know if I can say this, but we called him the prick of misery. And that when you got on the bench with him and he tap you on the shoulder, go, get it done, man, you'd go through the wall for that guy. It was amazing. Like he was so inspirational in so many different, motivational in so many different ways. But, alluding to, to playing out, the career, I just felt that, having Buto was kind of gave me a second chance. I think that, quite honestly, Herbie would have probably tried to trim the fat and get rid of me, as in maybe a couple other guys, not for disciplinary reasons or whatever. But, I had a great rapport with Butts, and he said, I think you could be an impact player in this team, and, you're going to have to work a lot harder. You're going to have to go easy on, having fun and that kind of thing. And, just the different approaches of the coaches that you had, and also just the pride, of being a Minnesota Gopher, for you guys, same with North Dakota, and there's something that you'll never be able to really describe that to people. Yeah. That feeling, that euphoria that you feel.
Sure.
Well, that's kind of what when we talk about the Fighting Sioux, and it's obviously no longer the Fighting Sioux, but we still say Fighting Sioux, and people are, it's the Fighting Hawks, and it's just like,
no, it's a Fighting Sioux.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was just like this entity, like we want to keep that like living on through everything, and people are like, dude, give it up, it's not the Fighting Sioux anymore. But it's just like, it's the culture, it's the mentality, it's like
everyone in the past, all the alumni is like, if you're having a bad season or you weren't on path to make the tournament or whatever, you're just like, God, all these fucking alumni are so rattled right now.
Yeah.
And like in the back of your mind, you're in the middle of the season in college.
Rattled in what sense?
Well, you're in the middle of the season in college and you have a bad weekend or whatever, and you're sitting there thinking like, God damn it. You're not only thinking like, oh, I'm sad for myself and for the people at school, you're also thinking about like, fuck, the alumni are pissed. Like, TJ Oshie's rattled us that we're losing these games. Like, you're thinking about all that stuff, all those alumni that came back, have went through the program and they're now watching the program, and you lose those games, and those guys really don't care. TJ Oshie, is he watching the UND games? Not a chance. But you're still thinking in the locker room after those losses, like, we're letting down all these alumni, all these fans that have went through the program and all this stuff. Like, it's not only you. Like, you're not only sad that, I played a bad game. You're like, I don't care about letting down myself. I care about letting down like all these people who care.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's and you get that, at pretty much every D1, D3 school. But it is special when, like you think about that rivalry that we had. I was so disappointed when, North Dakota split off and everything else, and there's no
100%.
longer that. I mean, that was a great rivalry, and that took away a lot in my mind, from the Minnesota fans as far as, that was
took the life out of both fan bases. I mean, that's what both fan bases looked forward to. I mean, there are other rivalries, like we played Duluth and Denver, big rivalries, but you take Minnesota out of the equation and it's like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of
and the same for us.
Yeah, a lot of the Gopher
North
fans,
Dakota, and the Fighting Sioux, and I just don't understand, all that. Obviously, I'm getting older, and I have to be politically correct or whatever. But it just seemed like, for whatever reason, it just didn't seem to resonate with me, and I don't think it does resonate, and it probably will not resonate.
It doesn't.
No.
For a couple more generations.
Well, let me ask you this: you look at Mariucci now, and when they're playing Notre Dame or Penn State and it's half filled at Mariucci, there's,
and those are big rivalries.
Those are your big rivalries that you're playing 4 times a year. You're playing against those guys in the standings, and the Mariucci isn't even sold out.
Right.
And then the very first game we play against Minnesota,
when we went to play Minnesota,
the place was stuffed. You couldn't find an open seat.
Exactly.
That tells you the story right there. Like, why would you break that up?
And how hard is that not to fix?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, this isn't, rock science.
My first 3 years in college, we didn't play each other during the regular season anytime. And then our senior year, my senior year, your junior year, we go to the Mariucci and we play. And, I mean, Olson and I had played in big-time regional games, big-time NCHC games, national championship.
Right.
When we go and play in the Mariucci, I mean, there is more buzz there than any other game.
Yeah.
We play in the national fucking championship. All the marbles on the line, and we go to Minnesota in the middle of fucking November.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the biggest game you're ever going to play.
Oh, God.
It was fucking nuts.
You stabbed each other in the freaking neck with your sticks, and then,
exactly.
and then right after the game, you're out to the bar.
Yeah.
And that was the way it was in our era. And that was one thing I want to mention, too, is that I'm sure a lot of the guys from my generation will, agree with me on this, is that it was absolutely remarkable and astounding to be able to play in the old barn. I mean, you couldn't hear yourself think. You're walking up those steps, and it was bonzo. You literally could not hear yourself think when you went out on the ice. Yeah. And that was the same for North Dakota, too, at the time. And many other rinks as well, but more so, North Dakota, Minnesota. And so I hope that they can revive that rivalry in some form or way. I get it with, the Big Ten and all that, but it seems like it's kind of taken away. I don't feel that energy level.
Yeah.
No, it's not what it used to be, but I did want to ask you, so you said you were playing for Herb during the Olympics. So what's the process like there during that season?
No, before the Olympics.
Oh, it was before.
Yeah, because he's coaching the Olympic team, so it was
So were you in college when Herb was your coach and he went to coach
my freshman and junior and sophomore year.
So did he? Was he gone that whole year coaching the Olympic team?
Yeah, exactly.
So the whole year he was gone.
He left. Yeah, he actually left. Buto came in.
So was that full year that he was? I mean,
it was a full year. Yeah, it was one of the first times, and he was in charge of also not just the Olympic team but also personnel and everything else, as I understand it. I mean, I'm sure that one.
So was that? I mean, was that different when he came back and he was gone a full year coaching the Olympic team?
No, Herbie didn't come back. Like Neely Broughton came back, for example, but I mean, Buto took over, and then
Herbie was done after.
Herbie was done, yeah.
Okay.
So Buto took over, after Herbie left.
Okay.
And that's what I was saying earlier, about how I felt like he gave a lot of guys like myself another chance, and quite honestly, I mean, you're playing with such prolific players. I mean, you got 9 guys that are going to win the Olympics. I mean, it was like, God, can you just I don't want you to, have separated shoulder, but maybe just like, get an injury. You know what I mean? Stroll, McClanahan, Chris. And this was a war between those guys. It was amazing because every game was a free-for-all. It was either Strobel scoring 3 goals or, Micheletti scoring 3 goals or Christoph. And it was just, we're all just like sitting back and just kind of watching, and it was pretty magical from that vantage point, but it was not nearly as unified as the 81 team was.
So when they went to play the Olympics, I mean, what's the thought of American hockey players seeing these college guys go play Olympics all year instead of college? Were you thinking, like, they're going to take last place? I mean, they're fucking college players.
Well,
against the Soviet team who's beaten NHL All-Star teams. I mean,
yeah.
In your mind, was there any chance they would ever win that tournament?
No. But you had a lot of confidence in, Herbie. I mean, sometimes I don't mean to diminish him because he was a great coach. And, I think that, it just, the way it snowballed in their favor. And we had so much confidence that these guys were going to at least not win the gold medal, but at least get there and maybe get a medal. I think that's probably how all the guys felt, and consequently it was prolific, and we didn't, I don't think, realize, what an impact that one game. I think that the gold medal has been voted the number 1 sports moment in North America for many, many years now.
Yeah.
Which you didn't, and even the players themselves, I don't think they ever realized that they'd be signing, autographs, 10
Did you
years
watch
later.
that game on TV?
No, because we were playing.
Yeah.
Oh, I never finished that story. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. ADHD kicked in. Anyway, I'm reaching for my Ritalin pills. No, but so what happened, we were in between periods, and all of a sudden, I was talking about Timmy Har, how he went to the team, for a tryout and then got sent back. And all of a sudden, it comes on the speaker in the locker room there in CC. Do you believe in miracles? Do you believe in miracles? And it was, just all this excitement. And, Timmy, I love him. He's just a great guy. And he was a prolific goal scorer. And he probably could have been on that team too. But, like Herbie could only pick so many of his own players. In any event, he kind of, it had to be a tough moment for him, knowing that he was that close to making that team,
Yeah.
But I think that we were very good at supporting each other, and I think that we had great leaders as far as like captains. And I think that's something that's been perpetuated over the years, and I'm sure for you guys as well for North Dakota. I mean, North Dakota was always it didn't matter, what the chemistry was of the team. It was always a battle, and it was always a great performance, for the most part. By either North Dakota or Minnesota, we played.
Do you remember any of those North Dakota players? Just because a lot of our listeners are North Dakota fans too. So, do you remember any of those North Dakota players that were like, this fucking guy? This
is extremely embarrassing, but I really don't. I mean, I most of the guys that I played with, would associate themselves with, the opposition players. What it was, Wisconsin, North Dakota, CC. And, I don't know. I just, I never had those kind of cross-team relationships, friendships, I should say, with those guys. So not really in particular.
Which is what I think is a little different about our day and age. Because when I talk to you and your buddy Ed Bunnies, when I met Shadosh,
right.
You guys were talking, you guys were talking about North Dakota and kind of chirping. And I'm like, kind of thought it was funny, and I'm like, I'm a North Dakota guy. What are these guys going to say? And they're like, oh, fuck you,
Yeah.
And then we, started talking. But nowadays, when you're a hockey player, you kind of know a lot of the guys on opposing teams.
Right.
Like half the guys on each team, and you played with them before, and you're friends with them. It wasn't really like that back in your. I mean, you fucking hated these guys, right? Like it was like
and we did. I remember some of the players from the other teams, not so much North Dakota, but we did. There was obviously some common denominators as far as having played against those guys in high school, but it wasn't like junior hockey now. So you may have played, with some of the opposition players for 2 years in juniors.
Yeah.
Where that wasn't happening back in our era. It was straight, from college or from high school to college.
So how was that transition to the college game when you started practicing with the Gopher players who had played college and they're up to speed with the college game? You're coming out of high school thinking you're all hot shit and you fucking start practicing with these guys and you're like, holy shit, this is college. Like, they're way.
Yeah, I got a lot to learn. And you guys know that too.
Oh, yeah.
When you came in, it really is. It's a real learning curve, and it's just the competition was so extremely intense. Every day, and also I'm so glad to see it. It's funny because not that I was a visionary or anything, but I always said to the guys, we should be getting paid. Not a lot of money, but a little bit of money. Like we were, I'll never forget, I was so fortunate because I actually had a trust fund. My grandfather gave me, and then I had a little bit of scholarship. But, you had guys like the Broughtons, I love those guys, Aaron and Neely, and they were, many times having to go like to Burger King, and not just them, but a lot of guys on the team, and not eating very well. Whereas the football team, at least they got the training meals and everything else.
Yeah.
And, and we couldn't even get a decent, stipend, for food during the course of the season. And I'm not talking about, the entire year, just the season. And so I think I find it really interesting. I'd love to hear your guys' input on the, is it NILs, the image?
Yeah, we missed out on the NIL stuff.
NILs,
that was right after we graduated. But we got in at a time where the universities, the bigger universities.
I think it was after your freshman year, after my sophomore year.
Yeah, we got into the stipend stuff.
Okay.
They started paying us on top of. So if you got a scholarship, everyone's scholarship's different. Whatever you're at, 75. So North Dakota doesn't really give out 100% scholarships because they split it out throughout the team. Every team does it different. Every college does it different, but they kind of split it out throughout the team, and you get so much money towards school, housing, and food on the campus.
Okay.
That was my first 2 years in Olson's freshman year.
Yep.
And then after that year, NCAA came out with, if you're an athletic team and you're allowed to give the athletic team a certain amount of money on top of their school, housing, and food to get them through the day.
What?
Well, and let me just interject something right now. People have, and fans, I don't think have any idea of how hard we all worked, in our careers, and how much time and energy that we put into the game. And I have a little bit of scuffle with some people on this. They're like, well, they're paying for your education. Yeah, they are paying for the education, which is great and it's phenomenal. But the fact of the matter is, you're going to the rink at 1 o'clock. You're coming home at 6, 7 o'clock. You're dead tired. Then you got to study, and then you got to go away on the weekends for the road trips. Leaving on a Thursday morning, coming back Sunday night. You get nothing done there. I really feel like they're on the right track, but I don't know how they're going to manage it. Yeah. Like how are they going to manage this new, concept?
Yeah, because, obviously, especially with the big football players now, they're signing $1 million NIL deals.
Right.
And with hockey players, it's not as popular of a sport. And if, North Dakota, Minnesota, BC, all these great hockey schools, but then you got, wide receiver at Alabama.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
Penn State.
Way above our hockey, it's just... So it'll be... I don't know how they kind of tame it. I don't think that they will. I think it's just kind of a...
And to build... Yeah, and to build off what you were saying, Dosh, about these guys not being able to pay, get good meals and stuff, it does get... It's a little different because, you're a kid. You don't know what to do with money. And once we got this extra money... the parents didn't see that.
No.
So when I was a freshman and sophomore and I got my scholarship money, my rent money, all this money, on my scholarship so I could pay for my dorm and my schooling and all this stuff. Well, when they started giving us extra money, they gave it to the kids, they gave it to the players and they put it on we had a UND debit card.
Okay.
So they put this money on the UND debit card, and there'd be a certain amount on there at the start of the semester. And there'd be enough on there to pay your rent from, September to end of December. And there'd be enough money on there for you to get meals.
Okay.
And pay school, and that's it.
By September 10th, you're out.
When we started getting this money when we started getting this extra money on our debit cards, on top of all that stuff, so you're like trying to budget, like, okay, I owe $500 for rent this month, so that's $2,000 till December. I've got to pay this much in schooling, so I have this much left over. I mean, guys on the team were like, in North Dakota, we have blackjack tables, slots in the bars. I mean, there'd be guys first week fucking walk out of the bar first week at the blackjack table, just calling their parents the next week, hey, I need money in my account for Qdoba. Their parents are like, are you fucking serious? What are you talking about? Like, someone stole my money. Well, no one stole their money. They just lost $2,000 at the fucking blackjack table last night.
It's a good thing I was never a gambler.
I mean, all this stuff. So it is a little different.
I just like that they're trying new things. They're trying to find ways. Like the whole thing is, if you're a normal student, we have to pay our way and then work, and then that's how we pay for our school. Right. We didn't ever have that option, so that's why they gave scholarships. But even for me, I was on a 45% scholarship. So I mean, that's still 50% each year that I have to pay somehow, and I've got no idea how the hell I'm going to pay that.
Well, and
I'm still paying it off.
And that goes back to the first guy whoever decided to work out.
Yeah.
I mean, they screwed all the parents out there, all the players. The players aren't the one who's paying for the ice and the trainer in the summer. It's the parents.
Right.
It's the parents who are eating that bill.
Yeah.
And whoever decided to start doing that, the parents are like, oh my God, my kid's got to, skate all summer, which means 10 more sticks.
Yeah.
That much more sock tape, all the ice sharpenings, like.
Yeah, that goes with
it starts adding up, like the money starts adding up. And I think about if I have kids, like putting them in hockey. And I recently, I don't know how long it's been for you, Olson, but I haven't bought a hockey stick in at least 10 years from like a pro shop or anything. Well, I just went walking through a pro shop and these hockey sticks are over $300, the nicest ones. And it's like, if you're a parent, I mean, unless you're filthy rich, are you spending $300 on a hockey stick that's going to break in 2 weeks?
No.
Exactly.
I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah.
You can't.
It is. It's tough. It's tough. But I want to do, you mentioned it earlier, before we close up shop here, I need that 10-year reunion story from the national championship team.
Yeah, that was special. So first time I ever got invited to Herbie's place on Turtle Lake. That's for sure. Anyway, so we got the 10-year reunion, and everybody's out there. A beautiful day. Just they were all excited to see each other. Most everybody came, and so I'm walking through the line. Right, I got like Strobel in front of me and Kristoff, some of these guys. And Herbie's like, hey, Riff Raff, how you doing? Good to see you. Mac, how you doing? Can you give me a beer? I'm not getting you a beer, Herbie. I don't know you anything anymore. It's just all this great banter like we have. And then all of a sudden I get up and I go, hey, Herbie. He turns away and he goes, Patty, can you get us a beer? He wouldn't even shake my hand. Swear to God. And I'm like, Herbie, it's 10 years later. I mean, come on. And I was actually playing pro hockey still at 28 over in Italy. So I was in pretty good shape, and I was doing my 1,000 sit-ups a day, and I'd just gotten back from Greece. So I was pretty tan. And anyway, so we are all sitting down. We're right in the water there and in the patio, and we're all having drinks. And it's it's Hayek and the whole gang. I mean, Billy Baker, Phil Verkota, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden this cameraman comes up, and he says, "It's Channel 5 guys," and there's this young broadcaster who was probably about 24 years old, 23 years old. And he goes up to Strobel and he says, hey, Strobe, he says, I got to interview, one of the top players. He says, I was a little young, to see that team. I didn't really know that team. Could you give me, like, who do you think I should interview? And Strobes goes, oh, you got to interview Dosh. He was prolific on that team. And the kid's like, who's Dosh? Brad Doshan, are you kidding? All the guys are just busting and got laughing. And so I'm sitting there, so the kid's kind of shaking. This is live on Channel 5. And
it's actually the horns.
There's a reporter. This reporter actually wrote about this, Klobuchar or whatever. Anyway, so I get up there and I'm drinking a Heineken, and it's live TV. And the kid goes, geez, Brad Doshan, you're the only one still playing pro hockey. You look in amazing shape. He says, what do you attribute to it? And I go, well, I guess I'd have to say probably, the Heinekens for sure, and the anabolic steroids. and everybody's just howling behind me, And so a couple more questions. And he says, well, could you give us your personal highlight, of the 1979 National Championship game? And I said, Steve, I guess it'd have to be, it was about 10 minutes left in the game. And we were tied with North Dakota. And, I got out there, and I had like the shift in my life. And I beat the forward, the neutral zone. I walked the defenseman, and I walked the other defenseman, and I got chopped down. And as that defenseman chopped me down, the goalie was coming out, and the puck went forward, and I actually chipped the puck flying through the air into the open net for the winning goal of the national championship team. He didn't know who the hell Doshan. I just stolen Neil Broughton's goal. The guys were just losing it.
It's on air. It's on air's Dosh. Poking
the end of the article was, next time Broughton better show up, because Broughton didn't make it. So it was just, so the one thing I wanted to say to you guys is, at some point in time here, in 20 years from now, you're going to probably be called on the ice. We had the reunion. We had the 40th anniversary, the national championship team in 2019. And they called us out onto the ice. And I have to tell you, it was, actually they're playing Wisconsin, so the place was almost, Marriott was almost full. And to be walking out there for one last time, I got to tell you, it was pretty freaking riveting.
Yeah.
And being with all the boys, and
the people, they still care. Like they still love you guys. It's crazy for Olson and I, who are, we're definitely not humble on here. We brag about our, being.
We brag.
We brag all the time.
That's why we connect so well.
Brag so much about being very mediocre hockey players, but when we go back to Grand Forks and in the Ralph Engelstad, the fans there and people, they love it. Like they're so
Passionate.
Appreciative and passionate. Like they don't care where we are now. They're just like, hey, thank you. That was, one of the best days of my life when that happened. And North Dakota was on a 19 when we had won, or 16-year drought or whatever. They hadn't won since 2000. And it just resonated with so many people. When you go back there, they're so thankful, and it's something you can't explain. Like, it's so cool. You're like, why do these people care? But they do, and like, you don't understand how much they care and how much it means to them. And you're just like, God, this is so cool.
So then they came down, and after we got on the ice, got off the ice, they said, hey guys, could you come, in between the first and second period and sign autographs? We need volunteers, So I'm like, I got this Twinks, all this residual players, and none of the stars were going. So I had to go around and recruit Bill Baker, Neil Broughton, because otherwise, they'd been so disappointed, all these fans. And we must have signed like 100 autographs. I never signed so many autographs in my entire life, And they're like, well, who are you? And I was going, oh, you don't want to know. I said,
I scored that chip goal.
Exactly. I was a real political player, but and again, it all goes back to just that pride, and that synergy that you have amongst teammates, fans. I mean, there was fans that were waiting. They were waiting for like a half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm going like, you're waiting for me? You know what I mean? And it was just really, that was exhilarating and really rewarding as well to know that you're going to be remembered. You know what I mean? At least, Broughton will be because he didn't come to that.
But in a team way, you'll be remembered forever. You guys go down in history as a team that won a national championship.
It is funny. He mentions, I had to drag these guys out there. If we were to do the same thing, all the best players who everyone wants autographs from, we would have to be walking around like, come on, you got to get out there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They would not be going, like Nicky Schmaltz, Brock, Kajula, Stetcher, all those guys, they'd be like, no, I ain't going out there.
When you got 9 Olympians, they kind of want their autograph instead of mine. Which is,
we're all like, we're going out there. They want ours? Yeah,
and those guys are so tired of signing autographs. That's why they didn't want to go. They've been doing this all their lives since the Olympics. But it was pretty funny. Last story, we got to wrap this up. So beforehand, we had a little buffet, and I had some drinks and that kind of thing. So this is before the game, and of course. I'm going to get in trouble for this one, but they were charging us $10 for a beer, and I'm like, we won a national championship, and we're charging for a beer? Anyway, everybody, we're, hockey players are. We're always looking for a free beer.
Like, you fucking kidding me? You know what I did for this university? Come on.
So it's pretty funny because they had us, signing we had to autograph the sticks, and they had jerseys, from various years and everything. And I kind of figured that this was going to happen. And this is, I know, a long-winded story, but somehow, some way, my Minnesota Gopher hockey jersey was given to me by a guy by the name of Rusty Everson, who brought a team over because he was friends with Gordy Hampson. And this thing got stolen, and there was like 5 jerseys that got stolen at the time. And Buto was harping on everybody, like, hey, come on, cough up. Who took the jerseys, And he goes, Doshan, it must have been you. I said, Butts, listen. If I stole the jersey, I wouldn't take mine. I'd take Broughton's. He goes, good answer. So anyway, I got this jersey. This was 20 years ago. And my buddy Rusty, they just got on this trip and was in Rome. And he says, Dosh, we got this present for you. And, he's kind of does done really well, surgeon, that kind of thing. And he saw there was an Armani bag, and I thought, I loved Armani, And I look in the bag, and I pull it out. It's my Gopher hockey jersey from 1979. I couldn't believe it.
Really?
And no blood on it because I never got a fight in my entire life. Well, actually, I got beat up a couple times. But anyway, so he pulls it. So what I did is I brought it, before the game, and I put it underneath, and I made sure it was on the front side so you couldn't see Doshan. And so I kept pulling the guys over, and they're all going like, what's wrong with Doshan? Is he got like dementia or something? Like, we don't care about signing those autographs. Yeah. Anyway, so I got everybody to sign the autograph. Long story short, we take off to walk across the street to go to the game. I go, hey guys, time out. They're like, what's that, Dosh? I said, hey, thanks for my retirement. And Alls goes, Dosh, I don't know where you're going to retire for $250. He says, but I'm going with you. That was classic.
Putting it on eBay right after. Thanks, boys. This is going to buy me a couple of cases.
So I'm going to raffle that off for about $12 one of these days because that's all they're going to pay.
I always laugh about that. Random people be like, oh, yeah, ever get in trouble, you could, sell your national championship ring. And I'm like, yeah, for what, 200?
Yeah.
Get a couple of Burger King meals on it?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not selling that thing for 200.
Well, they found mine in Lake Minnetonka on a big island.
Really?
For 10 years after I lost it there. That's another story. It was my nephew. He says, hey, Uncle Brad, can I wear your ring? Your national championship ring? And I said, sure, Mark. Why? He says, well, I kind of try to get lucky here. And he said, it didn't work for me. Why is it going to work for you? He takes the ring. Next thing you know, I come back. It's like 10 minutes later. He's like high-fiving this gal. And he's smaller than I am. And there goes the ring. Like that. And then into the water. Completely lost. My nephew, Brad, his younger brother. Oh, my God. He swam the whole day. It was
no.
Yeah. Trying to get it, save his brother. And I said, you guys, it's not a big deal. It's, it's $200 at Johnston's.
That's the same.
Yeah.
That's the same.
But then they found it. A guy found it 10 years later.
Really?
Yeah. It was actually on the Minneapolis Tribune. That's the only time I made the Tribune.
I mean, that's
I had my ring stolen.
That's kind of the same way I am. Like, people always ask me, like, where do you have your ring? And I'm like,
It's at home.
I don't fucking know. My parents have it in their drawer or something. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need it. Like, you think I'm walking around, like, opening up, like, yeah, look at this. Like, are you fucking kidding me? But, yeah, I mean, you just said it. I mean, you don't need it. You already know.
Right.
In your head, like,
Right.
I won. Like, I don't need the ring for justification. Like,
No.
I already know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Dosh, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thank you guys.
Appreciate having
Yeah,
you
it was a
here.
Really
pleasure.
fun.
This was definitely one of the best interviews we've had. This was awesome.
Well, thanks for lying to me.
Yeah. No,
Again.
I mean,
No, I'm just kidding. No, but no, it's been a blast. I've really enjoyed it. And, like I said, I used to do some commentating back in the day, and I didn't, obviously that's why I didn't make millions in that profession either. You heard that today. Yeah, so, but it's been fun. It's been fun reminiscing, and it's just it's neat to have the connection, with a couple of younger guys. And you got the old part over here, talking about his, accolades or none of the above. But thanks. It's really been fun.
well, it's
really
fun because, we're Minnesota, North Dakota guys, kind of supposed to hate each other. We talk about it a lot in the show. We've had former Gophers on here before, but really thankful I ran into you at Bunny's because, for the listeners who don't know, I ran into Dosh at Bunny's and he was with his buddy, and I was with a couple of Gopher players. We ran into them, and they started reminiscing on Gopher times and Gopher hockey, and they started kind of making fun of North Dakota hockey. And I was staying there, and I'm like, oh, this is hilarious. So I tell these guys I was kind of scared because obviously you won a national championship, and I'm like, oh, I'm a North Dakota guy, and they all started laughing. But I told them, don't listen to these guys. They don't know what it's like to win a national championship, but we do. So we'll bond. And
Great job with Mace too here. And for sure, Eurosport Tours will be sponsoring you guys within about 26 years after the pandemic. Anyway, hey, thanks you guys. It's been a lot of fun. Really, really appreciate this.
well, thanks everyone. We'll see you next week.